Do you understand that? Just as I choose to believe that you will recover. Now, wipe your nose. Pull yourself together. Sort out your face. And come downstairs when you're ready. There are people down there waiting to tell you you're loved.
Okay, after National Treasure on Tuesday night on Channel 4, we had Damned, which is the new sitcom written and starring Joe Brand. Morwenna Banks also wrote this, as did Will Smith. Not that one.
Not that Will Smith.
The one from The Thick of It, who also writes for Veep. It was set in a social worker in a council building. Child services social workers. Joe Brand played Rose alongside Alan Davis, who played Al. You also had Tamwar from EastEnders, Himish Patel. He played Nitin. There was Georgie Glenn, who was the boss Denise. You basically... Kevin Eldon was there, and Izzy Suttie. They were the main sort of six. And it was basically like a day in the life of these social workers. It was very much filmed like Joe Brand's earlier series, getting on, going forward. You had like just cuts to black and then the next scene. It was filmed in a real council office, so you got that sort of feeling of the claustrophobia. And you just saw them go throughout the day. Alan Davis was having a lot of problems with his personal life. One of his former clients turned up who'd obviously got a bit of a crush on him. Joe Brand's character, she was trying to sort out this name. There'd been calling about this woman, and she was trying to work it out who it was. It turned out it was her former best friend who had since married her old boyfriend, and they were looking after their grandkids. I mean, I did watch this with my mum, who is a social worker. She found it very funny, but at the same time, she said she would sack most of the people in that office if she was their boss.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, what's the recommended alcohol allowance for a 12-year-old? I don't think you understand. She's got a zombie knife. We're trapped in the staff room.
My boyfriend says he'll hurt me because I won't do anal like it is important.
Morning, Al.
Morning, Martin. Diary, please.
Diary. What a beautiful morning it is, too.
Yes.
Woke up this morning, I looked out the window and I thought, you don't get many of those to the pound.
Headset. Have you changed the door code again, Martin?
Yes, I was a little worried about security.
That's very thoughtful. We do need to let the people in who actually work here.
Al. We need to sort the door code, and that breaches many multiple protocols.
Okay, it's either many or multiple, not both. Nitin, answer the phone.
Where's the temp? We were promised a temp.
Ta-da! It's me again.
It's Nat the temp from last year.
No, not temp now. We're not called temps anymore. We're called interim workers, like sex workers, but without the intercourse.
Good. Good to know.
Morning.
The late Rose Denby.
Shit, sorry.
Ta-da! It's me again.
It's her again.
Are you the one that couldn't figure out the phone system?
I don't think so.
Could you answer the phone then, please?
Yes. Hello, children's... something.
Well, I've worked with people who acted at times like that, but okay. I think in a comedy you're doing things accentuated. I mean, as you say, Izzy Suttie's character would not have a job, for more than a day if she acted like that.
The interim worker.
I liked it. Perhaps the subject matter made it feel a bit more dark comedy than laugh out loud comedy.
I thought it was very funny, and I did watch, because I went to the screening of this. I watched it with an audience.
Hold on. Matt's been to another screening.
I have. I watched this with an audience, and I think at some points when you're doing like a comedy, it does help having other people laughing at the jokes as well. Like you get those moments, like when Joe Brand goes around to this sort of squalid house.
Yeah.
He's a former boyfriend with the is it a ventilator, the oxygen mask?
Yeah, CPD or whatever it's called.
Yeah, and there's a scene in the second, or several scenes in the second episode where Alan Davis goes to visit a couple with learning difficulties who recently had a baby, and that feels very true to life. And I do like the sort of comedy which is near to the bone. The sort of
I think it all works because when they go off and do their look at their cases, so to speak, it sort of brings home the reality of what they're actually doing to the audience. If it was just that office comedy with them having a couple of phone calls, it wouldn't do the childcare side of it any justice at all. I just sort of warmed to it virtually straight away, which
and
is
Himish
really hard
Patel
with
is
the comedy.
very good in it as well. I think
He's brilliant. Yeah.
He's sort of
really
completely. You forget that he was Tamwar. I think mainly because he's got a big
it feels like he's not been gone from EastEnders that long.
No.
But it feels like Maddie Hill has, which is weird. But they weren't at the same time. But no, this is a great new role for him, and
I liked his physical comedy when he was running to the toilet and the toilet was out of order, and then he tried to get to the lift.
And also, I remember vaguely the pilot on Sky Arts a few years ago, which, in comparison to this, seemed very watered down. It didn't hold my attention that well, whereas this seemed very tight. It knew what it was trying to do. It knew what it's trying to say to the audience. Do you think you struggle, Gary, with more realistic comedy, would you say?
Did you watch Getting On, Gary?
No, I didn't.
Because your reaction to Speechless was, "Where's the comedy?" So I just wondered whether...
because of the way you two were saying it, I probably...
But you really enjoyed the thick of it, didn't you?
I did, and I really enjoyed Veep.
It's a similar style to the thick of it, isn't it? The way they sort of... The camera and the editing
cuts.
and everything.
The reason I watch comedy, and I know this might sound like a really stupid thing, is to laugh. And although that happened occasionally in this programme, that wasn't the whole thing.
See,
the whole thing was laugh.
Oh, I think there was. I think
there was. No, but what I'm saying is there was lots of good comedy, but it was peppered also with these moments of drama and
I
pathos,
like that line, the line Joe
which
Bratt
is not
had.
why I watch comedy for.
Because you struggled with Mum for the same reason, that it wasn't overtly comedic.
I think this has got more gags in it than Mum. I think
definitely.
Mum, While we're on Tuesday, should we just talk about Ambulance, which was on 9 p.m. on 51. This was a fly on the wall documentary following the London ambulance crews. You saw it both from the perspective of the people in the call centre and the perspective of the paramedics on the ground, if you will, because there was like 3 specialist crews, wasn't there?
That's right, yeah, senior paramedics, and then other paramedic crews about, and the people in the call centre had to make snap decisions about which teams to send to which. Based on the call.
A bit similar, I suppose, these 24 Hours in A&E, because they're both medical documentaries. This was a lot more harsh. This was a lot more death in this, or a lot more talking about dead bodies and seeing dead bodies. I don't
think there was a positive story really in. I mean, there was only one incident of someone who survived. Really,
I think the one positive story was that woman, the Iranian woman at the end, who had been living with her ex-husband for the past sort of 30 years. She fled Iran after the revolution, and he was the father of her daughter. And she was really worried about him. He sort of had respiratory problems. And I liked the fact that they couldn't lift him, and they had to... initially, they were waiting for another ambulance to get him up, weren't they? Because he was in like a sling or something. And it was only when his carer arrived and was able to help them put him in the ambulance. And it was just like the practicalities of the job. I don't think you think about these things with the ambulance service.
I found this harder to watch than I would do like a 24 Hours in A&E
Do you think it's
program.
Because you live in London?
Possibly, yeah. And they started talking about places I know and I went to. And in my life, I have called an ambulance once. So the ambulance came within 7 minutes, the sort of agreed time. But the one thing they said was absolutely right. When you're standing waiting with someone who needs an ambulance, you're a second is a day, a minute is a lifetime.
People have called an ambulance for me a few times, obviously being epileptic.
Yeah.
When I've had,
so you've been on the receiving end of a kind of their treatment. Yeah. The one incident that I really struggled with, and I don't know why this one struggled with, but there was one incident where a member of the public had found somebody hanging, or hung, sorry, I suppose would be the right thing, and the ambulance worker was, or the person in the call centre worker was like, "Can you cut him down? The only way we're going to be able to save him is if..." And he was like, "No, I don't want to do that." And I really felt for that guy. I was really sort of like, "Oh my goodness, that must be horrible." This isn't a family member. This isn't somebody you know. This is an absolute stranger. You found them in this situation, and now you're having to... That's like, and I felt really sorry for him. And I think the way in which they were trying to portray it on the show was, well, if you bring him down, then we can do something about it. You should do it. This is your duty. And I thought, no. I thought, this is terrible. What a horrible situation.
A lot of the times as well, you saw the people at the call centre actually... we can't get an ambulance. Doing like mouth to mouth over the phone, delivering babies over the phone and things like that. I think this was really good. This was one of the things that Charlotte Moore previewed at Edinburgh, and I really enjoyed this. It's only There's only 3 of them, but again, same with BBC. If we touch on Our Girl, because we didn't mention it last week. Gary, you're up to date now.
I am. I was slightly worried when they came back from the army, overseas stuff in Kenya, thinking, how on earth are they going to make this into a show? I'm surprised, and I thoroughly enjoyed both episodes 3 and 4. I know you two have both talked about, shows of the year. This is definitely going to be, unless they really ruin it in episode 5, this is definitely...
I've seen episode 5, I won't give anything away.
No, but this is going to be in my top 10 shows.
What did you think of the reason they gave for Elvis not coming to the wedding, that he found out he had a daughter on the very same day? Because Luke, you've seen that episode as well, haven't you?
I didn't need it. I didn't need to know why he didn't come to the wedding. It kind of showed the level of commitment he had to her, and that balance.
Both of the love interests are a bit like, because obviously Elvis is meant to be this like brave hero, and I find him a bit over the top, and then her other boyfriend, I just find him very dull. The doctor.
Oh yeah, he's very vanilla, but he's supposed to be.
Luke, she's probably a bit worried that he might murder her as well, because he's got.
Well, there is always that. I think it's very similar to last year. It's a show of 2 halves. There's bits of it I go, I'm really into this, I really like it, and then it's all about her emotions and romance, and I go, you know what, I'm not into this, and then he's back in Manchester. That's interesting. Oh, we're talking to Elvis again. Oh, I'm not interested. So that's how I felt about.
I think you would enjoy that. Episode 4 has more action.
Episode 4, I love the scene on the bus.
Oh yeah.
I think it's brave them tackling PTSD as well. These dreams she has.
The flashbacks and things.
The flashbacks, and that continues into episode 5 as well. I've enjoyed it. As I say, I've finished it now, but I'll just briefly talk about The Fall. I know neither of you.
Yeah, go for it.
I've watched it. This is the 3rd and hopefully final series of Alan Kubitz's serial killer drama starring Gillian Anderson and Jamie Dornan. I think the sort of rising popularity of Jamie Dornan, who obviously is Christian Grey now on the big screen, has sort of propelled them to do another series of this. Gary, you watched sort of series 1 and some of 2, didn't you?
Yeah, I really liked series 1. Series 2, I didn't finish. And I did notice a lot of people felt that this was kind of the jumping of the shark moment.
Like, they caught him at the end of series 2, but he had kidnapped this girl who he'd known at university, who he'd had weird sexual experiences with, to put it mildly. She'd recognised him. The description had been brought in. He'd kidnapped her before she could give a sort of proper statement to the police. And when he was arrested, he said, I'll take you to where this Rose is.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, Gary. There was a couple that because he's a bereavement counsellor. There was a couple that he was helping who'd lost a son. Do you remember them?
Yeah, they were in a very rough area.
And the husband thought that he was having an affair with his wife.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah.
And the husband, at the end of series 2, comes and shoots him, basically. Then he gets killed. So the first episode of series 3 is all in Belfast General Hospital, with them trying to save his life so they can then try him for the crime.
The clip that they were showing was Gillian Anderson. He has to live because I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison for what he's done,
Yeah.
So
I mean, there were some interesting things in this, more about the effects that his crimes have had on his family. I think Bronagh War, who plays his wife, is absolutely excellent. I've seen the next couple of episodes as well, which are on the preview site, and she's just fantastic.
I think the problem is that people want the chase. They don't necessarily want to see the aftermath.
But the scenes that really annoyed me in this was obviously because Paul, Jamie Dornan's character, is out for the count. All of this, he's been shot.
Yeah.
But, Jamie Dornan's such a big star and his fans will want to see him. So they did this sequence where he's like in the tunnel of, will he go into the light? Will he go to heaven, or will he stay? And it's like The Fall hasn't done anything like that before. The Fall hasn't done fantasy sequences before. So why now do this scene where he's in a car going through a tunnel? He can hear his mum's voice at one end, his children singing at the other end. And it's like, which direction shall I drive in? And it's like, well, why have you introduced this fantasy element? Because you've never done anything like this before. It's been based solely in reality. To me, it just felt they wanted to give Jamie Dornan something to do.
Yeah, a bit of screen time.
The other bit I liked in this was they had a doctor played by Richard Coyle, who was saying, even though he's the Belfast